Welcome once again to the The Irish Fan podcast, where I am not an Irish fan, I am the Irish fan. My name is Danny. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining in. If you are new to this show, this is my second show. And if you could, you can find me on YouTube. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Um, this is something that I am doing on the fly by myself, no help, just doing what I can on my phone with my headphones and my earbuds in my Irish gear, ready to talk about Notre Dame football and ready to talk about the big win against Texas A&M on last Saturday. I know it's been a couple of days since I'm recording. Last week I recorded on a Thursday. Today I'm recording on a Thursday night. Just a couple house cleaning things about the show before I continue. What I'm going to try and do in the future is I'm going to start recording on Mondays or Tuesdays after the game, so that I can upload and get you a show. Just pretty fresh after a win. I got to compile my thoughts. Again, I'm doing this by myself. I'm not an analyst. I'm a nobody from nowhere. I'm Roy Hobbs, baby. They come and they go, Hobbs. They come and they go. I'm one of those people. So I'm someone who just is doing this for my own posterity. I just want to do this because it's fun. I like to talk, and hopefully you guys like to hear me talk about Notre Dame football. So going forward, that's what you're going to see from me is games on Sunday. I'm sorry, games on Saturday. We're not there yet. Games on Saturday and recording hopefully Monday night to upload, so it's uploaded for Tuesday or at the latest Tuesday night. I'm going to talk about the game and then maybe do a little preview of the next game coming up, especially if it's a bigger game. Maybe if it's a bigger game, like when we get to USC, I will have a completely whole another show later on in the week, around like tonight on a Thursday night or a Friday night or something like that before the game, so that we can talk about all that stuff. Okay, so what a win! I mean, you'd be remiss. I gotta say, I expected it. I expected a win. I did. And we should have won. We were ranked seventh. We're ranked seventh in the country. We're ranked fifth now, but we're ranked seventh in the country. Texas A&M was 20th. Yes, Kyle Field. Yes, they have a couple of 5 stars. We don't. But I think you can see who the overall better team was. The better team won. Whether you love or hate Notre Dame, the better team won. But if this podcast is going to be anything, it's not going to be a Homer podcast. What this is going to be is a 30,000-foot view kind of show. It's going to be something. I am not an analyst. I'm not a former coach. I'm not an alum. I am just a fan. I am just somebody who loves college football and, most importantly, Notre Dame football. And I'm going to take this view of looking at the program and looking at where we need to be and looking what's going on from way up here and looking down, because ultimately that's all we fans can do is just see what's going on, get a feel for things, or we get all the subscriptions and we pay for the stupid stuff so that we can get information. Most of the time we don't get it in time, or we hear it from somebody else or whatever. I'm not that person. This is not going to be something that you ever pay for. At least not now. Who knows? Maybe this get really popular, but I doubt it. So having that said, I just want this to be a very even keel, 30,000-foot honest view of the Notre Dame football program. If they stink, I'm going to tell you. If they are really good, I'm going to tell you. And this game, they were good. They were really good. We beat a good team. We beat Texas A&M, who's going to be a good team. We're not elite yet. We have aspects of our team that are elite. Our secondary, elite. It's right up. Name a secondary in this country on any team and put them right next to Notre Dame, and that's where we are. We're elite in the secondary, at least our starters. A lot of other positions have coming a long way, but as a team, we're not elite yet. That's the destination. That's the goal. The goal is a national championship. The goal was also, yes, we need to get wins. We needed to beat Texas A&M. But ultimately the goal is to win a national championship. That's why I'm doing this, That's why I'm covering the games. Hopefully, you as a Notre Dame fan, that is why you are watching Notre Dame football, so you can see them eventually win a national championship. So the overall arcing view of what this game actually means is just that. It was a step in the right direction. You had to win, and you had to win it however you could. Last play of the game, we had a field goal, making some gutsy calls there late in the game. Finally making a play, just somebody making a. That's what I kept saying to my buddy Brett all night long. I just want somebody to make a play. Just make a play. Someone show up, and we had a couple people that did, and that was awesome. And hey, the score. Listen to last week's podcast. Your boy was 2 points off. I predicted we'd win 24-14, and they won 23-13. So I was pretty close. And I predicted this team to be about where they should be. They're right there on the cusp of being elite. I think they're a really good football team. I don't think that is a homer analysis. Again, love or hate Notre Dame. I just want honesty. That's all I want from people coming back at me. You hate Notre Dame, fine. But you want to come at me with an honest conversation. So I have a buddy, and if you're listening, you know who you are. Say, well, if Texas A&M had a quarterback that could throw the ball more than 5 yards, it'd be a totally different game. Okay, all right. Look, I'll play your game. I'll play this. Let's say Connor Wegman. I watched the game 3 times, and Connor Wegman missed 3 passes that would have ended up in first downs. For sure, first downs. Now, maybe they continue those drives. Maybe they score touchdowns. Maybe they score field goals. Maybe Notre Dame picks off another pass in that same drive. Or maybe Notre Dame gets a fumble. I don't know. Who knows? We don't know. But the point is, at best, there were 3 passes that Connor Wegman had. 2 of them were interceptions. Where one of them he just sailed over the wide receiver's head. If he completes that pass, for example, that one pass, it's a first down. Well, you have to apply that logic now both ways. So Riley Leonard had 3 passes, where if he completes them, they're not first downs, they're touchdowns. He had the first one was the second drive of the game. It was a 3rd and 5. He was dead to rights. He was about to be sacked, but he was able to scramble out of it. Our running back, number 22, Devin Ford, was wide open in the flat. He throws it at his feet, hits his feet, skips up, incomplete pass. If he completes that pass, you watch the film. Watch the game again. He was wide open. Wide open. He just scampered 70 yards for a touchdown. There was not anybody even close with him for at least 30 yards. Maybe they would have caught him, I don't know, in the 10-yard line, 5-yard line, maybe. Which would have resulted in another field goal at minimum, or a touchdown, probably a touchdown. There was another one where we were in the red zone, one of our field goals that we had to settle for, where same player, number 22, Devin Ford. He actually had 2 guys open on this particular play, where he's rolling out to the right. We had Mitchell Evans in the back of the end zone. We had Devin Ford up in the front, and you could tell when he was throwing the ball. In mid throw, at least this is my opinion. I don't know if this is true or not, but in my opinion, he's throwing the ball, and it looks like in mid throw he couldn't decide whether to throw it to Mitchell Evans or Devin Ford, and it kind of went in the middle of both of them, and it hit the ground. And incomplete pass. He completes that pass, it's a touchdown. So, by my count, you have 3 passes from Connor Wegman, where if he completes them, they're first downs at best. You have 3 passes for Riley Leonard, where if he completes those, they're touchdowns. And you talk about a different ball game. I'll take that. Yeah, that would have been a different ball game, and we would have actually run away with the game. We were that close from running away with it, and unfortunately, we didn't make those plays. And you want to play the woulda, coulda, shoulda game? Well, they didn't. They didn't complete those passes. Riley Leonard didn't complete it, and Connor Wegman didn't complete it. By the way, since we're on that subject, everyone's talking about, or before the game at least, they were talking about Texas A&M having all these 5 stars and they recruit better than Notre Dame, and all these canards that I pointed out last week that are just not true. Notre Dame actually does recruit better than Texas A&M, at least this roster. just recruiting star rankings, Notre Dame has a better roster. They just do. Yes, I know they had that ridiculous 2022 recruiting class where they had like 5 5 stars or something. They had 30 players total in that class. 17 are still with the program. 17. Connor Wegman was a part of that class. He was the quarterback in that class, and he was a high 4-star rank. I think he was the overall number 30, 35 player in the entire country in that class. Riley Leonard was a 3-star. So why did Connor Wegman not perform very well? I like to think that it's not because he's not good. I think he is good. I think he's eventually going to be good. I like to think it's because our secondary is really, really, really good. Our secondary is elite, and there was nobody open. And if he kept holding onto the ball, he'd gotten sacked. We'd have had 6 sacks if he held onto the ball. He's not overly athletic. He's got some moves, but his scrambling ability was moot because our defensive line was all over him all night, so we had to throw the ball quickly, and it didn't have enough. There was no time for the wide receivers to be able to run their routes and get open because our secondary was on them the whole time. And let's credit our secondary also for being in position to make those bad throws interceptions. That's what good defenses do. So anyway, to all those haters out there, that's the reaction I have to you. Oh, well, Texas A&M isn't that good. Okay, we'll find out. Luckily, we have games to watch, games to play, and Texas A&M has a full SEC schedule ahead of it, and we're going to find out if they really are good or not. I think they're probably an 8-4 team, which is right there on the cusp of a top 25 team. And I mean, that's what they're ranked right now. I think that's what they are. And again, I don't think Notre Dame is. I don't think you can put Notre Dame in the category of Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State. You can't. And the number one reason why is because we have to play them. You're not going to be in that category by beating Texas A&M. We're not going to be in the Georgia, Alabama, or Ohio State category until we beat one of them. We had an opportunity last year, but we crapped that bed. I'm not going to relive that game because I was there and it sucked. So that's another podcast for another time. But we're not there yet because we have to beat one of those teams, and hopefully we're favored to win every game going forward for the rest of the season. And we are going to have an opportunity to go undefeated. And if we go undefeated, we'll be in that playoff, whether you guys like it or not. Whether you haters out there like Notre Dame or not, we're most likely going to be in the playoff, barring absolute total self-destruction. We're going to be in the playoff. Maybe we have a bunch of injuries. Maybe that happens. That happened in 2014. Ton of injuries, and we just had nothing there. But this roster's built a lot differently. We're a lot deeper. We're a lot more talented. So we've also got a really good new strength and conditioning coach who is supposedly just a superstar in the program right now. He's got everyone healthy, everyone looking good, everyone feeling good. That was another thing about this game. If you noticed, all the talk was, oh, Notre Dame going down to Texas Heat. It was the Texas A&M football players going down with calf strains and with heat exhaustion. It was Connor Wegman on national TV who lost his cookies. Yeah, that was Texas A&M. That wasn't Notre Dame. We didn't have any of that. We were prepared for that game because we have Marcus Freeman as our head coach. And that perfect segue to look. Throughout the course of this podcast, you're going to hear a lot of references to years past, to coaches past, certainly to BK. I am so glad that we have Marcus Freeman as a head coach. Did you see him fired up, screaming at fans, talking up his football team, talking up his football players before the game? Oh, I loved that. I absolutely loved that. And the reason why is because the previous regime, BK, we'll talk about his game in just a second, this last weekend, we would just come out with no fire. There were times, especially on road games, especially when we're playing a good team on the road, there was just nothing. There was nothing. He would come on, okay, this is a business as usual. Let's get out here. We should play well and let's go rah 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 and Gipper and all that stuff. Good job. He was very businesslike. He was a CEO type of guy. There was no, like I said, win one for the Gipper speeches. It was just he was so bland and blah, and that's what he put into our football team. And there were so many times when we would get out there on the road and at home too, and we would all of a sudden find ourselves down 10-0 or 14-0. We'd have to come from behind, all the time. This was very typical, very very typical. But Marcus Freeman, there's something different about him. Maybe it's his youth. Maybe that's all it is. He actually wants to be there. Like, BK, you could make an argument, especially during the latter part of his career, he just didn't want to be there. You know, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm here at the same school. It's my 10th year, 10th season. All right, let's go. We got another game. Let's play this. That's not Marcus Freeman. He actually genuinely wants to be at Notre Dame. He wants to instill his passion and ferocity into his players, and you can see that. That was on full display on Saturday night. I mean, just full display. I absolutely loved that. And then he was asked about it in the press conference, and he was, what were you saying? What were you fired up? And he's like, yeah, I probably was a little bit too passionate, so he didn't really divulge in exactly the word for word thing what he said. But his explanation was just perfect. And as a father, it just kind of made me cry. And he was like, there are times when, as a football coach, the father in you, and he's a father of 6 children, kicks in, and you see something in your football players that makes you become fatherly. And you want to let them know, hey, don't worry. It's okay. And it's okay because I'm here with you. I'm doing this with you. You're not alone. You're not alone. All these people in here, they're against us. That's okay. You're not by yourself. I got you. You're with me. And I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm going to show you how to defeat all of this and get it out of your mind and play the game that you're supposed to be. Before the season, he talked about to his players, I want to make you I don't want to make you into the next so-and-so. I want to make you into the best version of yourself. That not just that's folks, that's not just a mantra that you want to have as a football coach. That's something that you want to instill in your children, in your family. That's a family thing. I love that about him. And he absolutely nailed that. And hearing him say that and then looking back at that moment, I can see it. You can literally see it, where he was looking at his players in that brief moment as his kids, and he wasn't going to let them feel that way. He wasn't going to let them stay there. He wasn't going to let them be intimidated. Oh no, we came to play. We're prepared. We prepared all spring and summer for this. We're gonna stick it to you. We're gonna bring it. It's going to be hard. You want to take this win from us? You have to take it. Maybe he said something like that. I don't know. That's what I would have said. But he instilled that in his players, and guess what? Victory. Old Notre Dame. Whether the odds be great or small, Old Notre Dame will win overall. I don't know if he really believes those words. I don't know. I can't see into his heart. But what he certainly did was exude that mantra into his players to perfection. It absolutely worked, and I absolutely loved it. Everyone picked us to lose this game. Everybody. Everyone on game day, every national pundit, Josh Pate, Johnny Manziel, Nick Saban, all of them. The only person that picked Notre Dame to win, except for your boy, and except for other Notre Dame fans, was the 80 or 85-year-old geriatric senile guy on game day. With whom I love him. But he's the only one that picked Notre Dame, and I don't know. Maybe that's a foreshadowing of the coming season. But everyone picked us, and it's a little. I'm still just a little confused. I said in last week's podcast how polarizing this game was. I mean, you could everything from we're gonna get killed, or we're gonna win close. It's gonna or it was just so weird. There was so much weirdness around this game, and I just don't get it. I just don't get it. No one's talking about Texas A&M being an elite squad. They're not. They're just not. And we should have won the game, and we did. Let's talk about players of the game, the guys that I thought were the best. Obviously, Riley Leonard. He didn't have blowing away stats. He went 18 for 30 for 158 yards, no touchdowns, but no interceptions. That's key. Connor Wakeman had 2. Let's see. Jeremiah Love. I mean, the kid, just 14 carries, 90 yards, and a touchdown. He's super athletic. I'm just so excited. He's only a sophomore. I can't wait to see him go throughout his career. He's just going to be great. Jack Kaiser, he had 8 tackles. Jordan Botello, he only had 6 tackles, but he had the only 2 quarterback hurries, and he was all over the field. I mean, this might have been his best game in a Notre Dame uniform. I've heard that from other Notre Dame pundits. I mean, he just played so good. I was so impressed with him. Don Schuler coming out of nowhere. That dude, I mean, everyone kind of predict him to kind of slide into that second safety spot next to Xavier Watts, but I mean, he played with his hair on fire, man. I mean, he was coming downhill fast. He had one of those interceptions. I mean, he looked like he was the one that looked like an SEC style safety, even more so than Xavier Watts. Like he was doing it all. He was in coverage. He had some big time hits, had an interception. I mean, he just played so well. But again, this is going to be a 30,000 foot view podcast, and I gotta say, everything around this game, especially the perception from the national media and even from some Notre Dame fans of where Notre Dame is as a program. I kind of talked about this. I've already talked about this a little bit, but I can't overstate the fact that it just seems like everyone else has it out for us. Like they don't want us to be good, let alone are we good or aren't we good? There's a conversation. That's totally fine. Let's have that conversation. Again, I've already given my position. They're not elite yet. They're not. And they're not going to be until they beat one of those teams. But there's this perception that is keeping us down. And so they, after the game, they showed a little clip of Notre Dame's past, record or whatever. Sorry, got a little phone call here. And past record against SEC teams. And it showed that we had not won on the road against an SEC ranked opponent since 2004, and it was Tennessee, 2009. Ironically enough, that was Tyrone Willingham's final year. He got fired that year, that's just crazy to think about that. It's a really deceiving stat. Yeah, it's true. We haven't won on the road against a ranked SEC opponent in 20 years. Yes, that's true. But it leads you to believe that we play the SEC every single year, which we don't. We've only had a handful of games in the last 20 years against the SEC. And we've beaten ranked SEC opponents in the last 20 years. I mean, we did it in 2022. The bowl game of that season, we beat South Carolina in the bowl game. They were ranked 19th in the country. We've beaten LSU twice, once in 2014 and once in 2019. I mean, there's this overall arcing view that Notre Dame can't win a big game, or they can't win the big game. And outside of the playoff games and the 2 regular season games against Georgia, which, by the way, we played the dog out of them. We almost beat them One year, the other year, it came down to the final drive and a last second heave, but that was at Georgia in that raucous environment, and everyone said that we were going to get killed and run out of the stadium in that one. We did. We lost, but we didn't. The year before, when they came to our house, we only lost by a point. I mean, there's this, and that's Georgia. They won the national title in 2019. They won it in 2020. You know, it blows me away. It drives me nuts, and it's a little deceiving. It's not true that we don't win some of these games. USC, when they came at us last year, was undefeated, had a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, and was ranked 10th in the country, and we killed them. We beat them. In 2012, everyone picked us to lose in every single game that year. Every game. We played Michigan at home. We played at Michigan State, who's ranked 10th in the country. We played Oklahoma at Oklahoma, who was ranked 7th in the country that year. We played Stanford at home when they were ranked 5th or 6th in the country that year. Everyone picked us to lose every single game in that season. We won all of them. So it just isn't true that we don't win big games, that we don't beat SEC opponents. We do. We have just on the national stage, where the next step that we need to take is that elite status. That's our next step. We've done everything else, anything that we can do, because we're not in a conference, which is again a whole nother podcast. I'm not going to go down that road, at least not right now. I do want to talk about that. I'm going to talk about it in the future, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. But everything that Notre Dame can do in football, outside of winning a national championship and winning a playoff game, those two things, in that order, national championship, playoff game, we've done. We've gone to the playoff twice. We went to a BCS national championship game against juggernauts called Alabama twice. We played Clemson. And here's another thing. This is something that is also very, very annoying about people coming down on Notre Dame. First of all, again, you're not going to hear your boys saying that we're elite, because we're not yet. But second, you know who also loses to Georgia, Alabama, and Clemson? Clemson at least a couple years ago, and Ohio State. Everyone. Absolutely anybody that they play. Everybody loses to Alabama, Georgia, and Clemson, and Ohio State, except for Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, and Ohio State. They beat everybody because those are the elite teams right now. You know, so yeah. In 2012, we played against the greatest college football coach of all time, in Nick Saban. That was his second or third national title at the time. Okay. In 2018, we came up against one of the greatest college football quarterbacks of all time, one of the greatest defensive lines ever assembled in college football. Again, when that 2018 Clemson team. 2020, we played against a Heisman Trophy winner and one of the greatest offenses in college football of all time. All of those things, no one would disagree with me. That 2020 Alabama offense is one of the greatest of all time. That 2018 Clemson team, also one of the greatest football teams of all time. Trevor Lawrence, those four guys on the defensive line, they were sick. They were loaded. Those teams were loaded. So, yeah, we got killed. We did in all those games. And you know what? A lot of other people did too. A lot of other people. I don't want to spend too much time on this. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying that there's this cabal of college football people who want to keep Notre Dame down and don't want them to win a national championship. But because Notre Dame is so polarizing, because they're like the Yankees, whether you say something good about them or you say something bad about them, it's going to attract eyeballs. And that's the explanation. That I know it. I know it. They just want people to tune into what they're saying because they want the eyeballs. And Notre Dame attracts those eyeballs, good or bad, love them or hate them. They do. They just do. It's one of the reasons why they're going to make the playoff. I have no problem admitting that because there's a lot of other teams that are going to make the playoff for the exact same biases. It's just in a different direction. You're going to have 3 teams in the from the SEC at least in the playoff this year. At least 3 out of the 12 in the SEC from the SEC in the playoff this year. Why? Because they deserve to be? Probably not. At least one of them. It's most likely going to be a team or 2 that are going to be in there because they were in the SEC, and that's it. A lot of schools hold similar biases that Notre Dame does. And we get singled out because we're kind of on an island. Again, because of this whole independence thing, this whole not in a conference thing. Which again, that will be. I definitely want to go down that road, because you can't talk about Notre Dame football without bringing that up to some degree. I think a lot of you Irish fans will be surprised by my view on whether Notre Dame should join a conference or shouldn't. I'm not going to give that away just yet, but I think a lot of people would also be surprised to know that as much as eyeballs as Notre Dame is attracting and garnering, and as much as they're probably going to get in the playoff, even with a loss, there's this again, this whole thing with that stat, wanting. There's just something that I feel like wants to just take it away from us. I think a good story would be Notre Dame not making the playoff, being undefeated because they just happen to not be in a conference, or having 1 loss or 2 losses and then being left out because they're not in a conference. I mean, I think they're begging to write that story. Just because of all the eyeballs it will garner, because of all the people that be like, oh, you got to be kidding me, and all the people that'll love it and all the people that'll hate it. I think they're just itching for something like that to happen because it's a story. And that's what journalists do. They cover these games, and they got to manufacture and write stories, and that would be a big story. And so anyway, again, not a conspiracy theorist. I'm gonna move on from this. Talked about players of the game. I just want to kind of reiterate the concerns of this game as well. We need to clean up some penalties. Our line needs to get their act together. They played great. They did. They played for what they are and for what they were asked to do. I think they did play great. Did they play perfect? Absolutely not. No, there's tons to clean up. Tons to clean up. Again, I'm not an analyst. I'm not that guy. But I know enough football to be able to tell who gave up that sack. Who missed that block that caused that tackle for loss? I know enough to be able to see that, and I think most fans can see that too. Our line definitely has a lot to clean up, but they did what they had to do. They were not asked to go in there and win the Joe Moore Award. They were asked to beat Texas A&M, and they did that. So props to them. 11 penalties for over 100 yards is absolutely that's not acceptable. That can't happen. That can't happen again. That can't happen against USC because they have a better quarterback. Okay, that can't happen against Louisville. That can't happen against Purdue. That's gonna be a loud, raucous environment. There's gonna be a lot of people at that game screaming their heads off. It's gonna be sold out. We can't have that. That was way too much. Let me talk about our upcoming games. Northern Illinois, just a little bit. All I need is for there not to be a Toledo, okay? And if you're a Notre Dame fan, you know what I'm talking about. 2021, Toledo came into the Notre Dame Stadium. We thought we were going to wax them, and they were this close to beating us. And it took a 25,000-year-old quarterback named Jack Cohn to come in there off the bench and with a jacked up finger and win the game for us. That's not happening. I'm not even going to say the L word. I'm not even going to say it. I don't even want to think it. Not happening. Okay? What else cannot happen is some kind of mental lapse where we're not focused. We don't want to be there because, oh, I got a test on Monday, or man, my calf really hurts. Look, you're college athletes. Everyone's got tests on Mondays. Everyone's hurting. Okay? Suck it up. Be focused and do what you need to do. The line right now is, I think, 28 points. That's about right. We should 45 to 14, 38-10, 38-7, 40, 45, 15 if there's some late scores by Southern or Northern Illinois. That's what it should be. It wouldn't shock me to have that line a little bit lower or even a little higher. It wouldn't shock me either way. What would shock me, what can't happen, is a little mental lapse in judgment or in play. You got to bury this team. Bury them like you should, and move on to Purdue next week. So that's what I need. That's what I'm looking for. I'm gonna wrap this podcast up by just saying, if you're listening to this, you're probably a friend or family member, and if you're hanging on this long, I appreciate it. Thank you. I do want to grow this podcast. I do want it to be more than it is. I'm not just doing it for myself, even though I kind of am. The wife is letting me do it, which is awesome. She's upstairs right now, telling my son not to go bother daddy for about 37 minutes. I really appreciate that. And I can't wait for this. What I saw Saturday night was it made me so excited for this season. Marcus Freeman, man, he's something different. He is something else. He is ready to bring it, man. He was ready. He was fired up in that game, and what he had to say after the game was so touching. I just absolutely love him. So, so looking forward to this season, and I cannot wait to share it with you, the Irish fans. Not much is said about Irish fans, any fans for that matter. We're mushrooms. We're fed crap and we're kept in the dark all the time, and we're the ones that spend the money on the tickets and buy the stupid t-shirts because we love the Irish and we love our team. But we don't have enough of podcasts like this where we can air out our complaints. One of my favorite podcasts, I can't even remember the name of it, but because they're not on anymore. But they were just two brothers, and they would just, they'd get on after a game and they just riff off of one another, and it was the most entertaining podcast I've ever listened to. They don't do it anymore, unfortunately. They had to stop because they weren't getting paid, and we have families, we have lives, and it's hard to do stuff like this. So I like being able to listen to other fans who watch a game and say exactly how I feel when I watch something, whether it's good or bad. When it's Michigan State in 2016, and we get absolutely drubbed, and it comes out of nowhere, and we're like, what is going on? And we feel like that song, Creep, by, in the early 90s, I can't remember Radiohead. Oh my gosh, jeez. That's how I felt after the game, and I remember these two guys. That's what they said. That was the song that went off in their head as they were going after the game, and it was great. That's exactly how I felt. I love hearing that kind of affirmation. That's what I want this podcast to be, is you can listen to me and feel the affirmation that you crave about Notre Dame football. Okay, this is my rant. Now I'm done.